farmer has a plot of land in the shape of a parallelogram as shown below, A, B, C, D. The farmer wants to separate this land into two equal triangles in order to have pens for both his cows and chickens. He has already built a fence to surround the plot of land. The width of AD is 17 feet and the length of DC is 28 feet. He then wants to build a fence that divides the plot of land diagonally, AC, in order to create the two pens. Side DC runs west to east and the measure of angle D is 62 degrees. Part A. Find the length of the diagonal fence X. So below we see the plot of land that the farmer has, A, B, C, D, and we can see clearly that length AD is 17 feet and length DC is 28 feet, and we have the angle D, 62. And here we have marked X for the dotted line diagonal that where he wants to build the fence AC. To figure out the length of AC, we need to use the law of cosines first to find this extra side, since we are given side angle side. Our first step would be to write out the first part of the equation. So since we have to find this side, we're going to need the cosine of this angle, which means that in the original law of cosines equation, a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of c equals c squared, this 17 feet, the AD width would be A, DC would be B, and the X would be C, but here we're representing it with an X. So when we write it out, the equation would read 17 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 times 17 times 28 times the cosine of 62 degrees equals x squared. Next, we have to solve for 17 squared and 28 squared and multiply those numbers together. So we get 289 plus 784 minus 252 cosine of 62 degrees equals x squared. There it is. Next step, we add those two numbers together and we add those two numbers together and we get 1073 minus 252 cosine of 62 degrees equals x squared. We then multiply 952 times the cosine of 62, and with that quantity, we subtract that from the 1073 to see what x squared equals, and we see that it equals 626.06. We then have to take the square root of both sides of the equation in order to find what x is, because we have to make sure that we don't solve for only x squared. We have to continue on to find x, because that's what we're looking for in AC. You can see it now. So when we solve that, we get a length of 25.02 feet for x, which we can see here. So that would be the length of that.
So in order to solve the second part of the question, or of the problem, we need to look at the fact that the farmer decides to ask his brother for help in order to build the fence. His brother begins constructing at point A, and the farmer begins at point C. In regards to point D, what are the angles that each brother needs to start building the fence at in order to meet in the middle? So here we're basically asked what the measures of this angle here labeled as Y, and this angle here, labeled as Z, are. So therefore, in regards to point D, what angle does this farmer have to travel at in order to reach the middle, and what angle does this farmer have to travel at in order to reach the middle and create a straight fence? So in order to solve this, we need to use, since we're given SSA, side, angle, side, we use the law of sines, where sine of A so the sine of angle A, over the opposite side, A, in this case 28 feet, is equal to the sine of angle B over the side B. So if we plug in the values we have for this triangle into the law of sines actual equation, we get sine of y over 28 feet is equal to the sine of 62 degrees over 25.02 feet. In order to be able to solve this, we need to multiply sine of 62 by 28 feet, and 25.02 feet has to be multiplied onto sine of y. So as to cancel out the denominators. So once that looks like this once it's written out. And what we do from here is we plug these values into our calculator, of course without the FT for feet, and we'll get what 25.02 feet, 25.02 times the sine of y is equal to, and that ends up being 24.72. So in order to find the angle y, we first have to go through sine y and then get the inverse sine. So in order to get sine of y, we need to divide this side by 25.02 and divide this side by 25.02. What that ends up being is that the sine of y is 0.99. So by plugging this into our calculators and putting the inverse sine of 0.99 would be the value of y, and that ends up being 81.12 degrees. So the measure of angle y is 81.2 degrees. So the next part into solving the last angle, angle z, is to know that all angles in a triangle must add up to 180 degrees. So in order to find z, what we have to do is add angle y and angle b, let's say in this case, angle D rather. We have to subtract the addition of those two numbers from 180. And what that ends up being is 180 minus, in brackets, 62 plus 81.12 is equal to 36.88 degrees. So that's the measure of angle Z, and that concludes the final step to our problem, since we now we're able to solve the triangle, and we have the measures for all angles in the triangle and the measures for all lengths of the triangle as well.